All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the February Idea Share from Key Ministry. We do these the first Monday of every single month, and it's just a chance for disability ministry leaders from all over the place to just get together and share ideas, express concerns, help each other brainstorm some things that you might have going on. So my name is Beth Golick from Key Ministry, and Catherine Boyle is our Director of Mental Health Ministry at Key Ministry, and we're just delighted to have you all here today. So there's no agenda, so this is just an opportunity to chat. So who wants to go first? And by the way, I'm looking around, and I know many of you are working on Night to Shine this week, and so I just want to say, great job being here, because I know you all have stuff to do today. As do I. This list behind me, for those of you who are able to see my screen, those are just guests from group homes that are coming to our event. So anyway, it's an exciting week here at the church. Meekins, I'm looking at you. I know you have something to share.
Okay, I got it. So I don't know if I've shared this with this group, and tell me if I have, and I'll stop talking. But there was a church that was going to come to an Awana conference that we did in Maryland. We're in Virginia, and we were going to do this, and we did do this Awana conference in Maryland. And they were going to come, but they couldn't make it. So after probably like this month sometime, the leader of a children's ministry of her church got in touch with us and said, we loved the names of the talks, the breakout sessions that you did at the conference, and we were wondering if we could have your PowerPoint slides. Well, I don't know about y'all, but sharing PowerPoint slides is not going to really give them what they need, because you have to fill in all that stuff, right? So we said, well, that's not going to work. How about jumping on a Zoom call? So we jumped on a Zoom call. Okay, long story short, this lady was all about discipline. And the discipline of those children that are challenging in their organization, right? In their children's ministry. And so she was saying, yeah, we're doing a leadership training, and the topic is going to be on discipline. And so when she said that, of course, I get a little unfurled, and I was like, there's got to be a better word. So how do you do that with somebody you don't know and share that in a gentle way? And so I said, well, what if you thought of the discipline in the light of discipleship? So it's all about teaching them and helping them to know how to be their best selves, right? In this particular environment. And so we had a conversation with her, and I was kind of wondering if she was going to kind of, be a little bit upset by what we wanted to share with her, because ours is all about, as you all would be, I'm preaching to the choir here, about hidden disabilities and understanding those hidden disabilities and where some of these challenges are coming from, and that these children aren't just, laying in bed at night, trying to find a way to make your life miserable, so just to kind of give that mindset that, hey, you might be dealing with. And so we talked with her probably for an hour. Yeah. And by the time we got finished, the Holy Spirit was present. It was such a wonderful time of her seeing things she'd never seen before. So we had the opportunity to influence this whole church setting in their children's ministry just by talking with this one leader who was open to receiving information. And she said, now we talked to her on, I don't know, like a Monday or Tuesday, and it was that Sunday she was doing the training.
Oh,
and
wow.
She said, now I've got to change everything. So what a delight that was to hear her say, okay, so we're going to have to really raise awareness. That's what we have to do before we do anything else and make any other decisions. We have to raise awareness. So thank you all, because you have been feeding us for the last 4 years all this wonderful information that we could pass on to others. So there's some church up in Maryland that's going to be blessed by you all.
I love it. This is like an awesome way to kick off our discussion today. So thank you for that encouragement, first of all. And yeah, thank you for like speaking into to the subject, speaking into her, like in a tactful way, but like how awesome that then there's this like shift in thinking. And just, now this church has like a better understanding probably of hidden disabilities and just awareness. And now they're actually, sounds like, kind of changing how they're going to do their training to better support these students and the volunteers. So that's amazing. Very cool. I love it. That's a great way to kick off this February idea share. Next, I'm going to call on Beverly Smith, who has a question that she would like to ask the group.
Okay, sorry, I'm on the phone, so I had to find all those little buttons to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Beverly Smith. I'm new to the group. I know the Meekins. They knew me. They've been wonderful help to me. I'm up here in Pennsylvania. I don't know where everybody's from, but I'm actually launching into starting a school for special needs, which I kind of feel is disabilities ministry every day. But that's not where my question lies. Obviously, my why for starting a school is I have a son with special needs. And so my question is, we've started exploring a new church that seems a bit more open to meeting the needs of special needs, because I met with the children's pastor because he had expressed the desire. And my son is 14, so he's in middle school currently. And it seems like that middle school and high school time is really difficult, is what I'm finding from local churches that we've visited and gone to, of incorporating those with special needs. I've met with the youth pastor. He seems open to having my son come and explore that. But I feel really clueless of how to go about supporting him, or even ideas of how to incorporate him into the youth group. He's intellectually delayed. So the normal content that they may be going over is not miraculously be by the spirit of what he picks up. He's very social, so he loves the socialization part of that. But just any tips or wisdom on how to go about bringing a special needs child into a youth group, and because I want it to be a successful integration. And so any hiccups or problems that we can avoid, I mean, you can't avoid everything, but just some guidance on how can I help the youth leader? Who could I connect him with to help him feel more equipped?
I'm going to see a lot of hands raised here. So Beverly, you picked a wonderful group to come to with your questions, because we've got all different kinds of experience on here. And I know several of you have info to share. So who wants to go first? And then I'll fill in when there's lulls in the conversation. Julie, did you raise your hand?
I just raised my hand to tell Beverly that we can help you with that. That's all. I want to let other people talk.
Well, we'll come back to the Meekins, but would anybody like to share maybe, from their own experience at their church or with their family? Or yes, Allison, who is from Pennsylvania as well.
Oh, where are you at?
So we're down right in the, where are we? South east corner by Kennett Square, Longwood Gardens, towards the Maryland Delaware border.
You can probably tell by her accent where in Pennsylvania she's from.
The English bit, right?
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Pennsylvania are you based?
Right near the capital of Harrisburg. I'm in Mechanicsburg.
Okay. So I totally hear your dilemma. We've done a number of things to incorporate some of our middle school, high school kids. Sometimes we run separate programs at different times. Sometimes we've done it at the same time. We've tried to look at encouraging peer buddies for that age group rather than putting an adult with them. Sometimes that's a little easier than other times, depending on the cohort of the kids. one of our high schooler kids, his interaction with the high school program is that he provides the snack, which is healthy fruit. So him and his dad prepare it together, and then he provides it for the kids and takes it round. And then again, he's not really at the stage of being able to sit and do a Bible study or interact at the same level of them for that part of the night, but he enjoys playing games with them. And then when he sees them on a Sunday morning, he'll often play games with them then before service or have another opportunity. So there's a social engagement there. I'm also looking for wisdom as to other ideas within that area. So I'm excited to hear other people's input, but just wanted to give a little bit of a taste of something, if that helps.
Love that. I love that. So what I'm hearing here is there's like not one set, like this is the way you do it. Okay. So it may vary by the student. It may vary by like the type of setting. I love the idea of, for this particular student, what works well is, I love the interaction around the social part of it, as well as he's serving. I mean, he's like, he has a service opportunity in there. And I love that he's establishing relationships, making those connections. So he has that Christian community, you know, so when he sees other students at church, like he knows them. So I love that idea. And then there was something else you said that stood out that I can't remember. So thank you.
Peer buddies, maybe?
Yes, that was it. Thank you. Yes.
Mhm.
So, right. So introducing peer buddies into the classroom instead of bringing in adults from, yeah.
Question about the peer buddies. Do you do some kind of training with them previous? Because that's kind of what I'm leaning towards of
Yeah.
seeing about a peer buddy. I had asked at our other church and it was come back, will you provide somebody? And
I know that's always the dilemma. And sometimes it's rare, and that's not, you know, especially at that age, that gets, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. The peer buddies, again, a variety of ways. Sometimes it's the kids themselves have expressed an interest. Other times it's been parents that said, you know what, actually, my daughter's involved with something like Best Buddies, or my son's involved with something at school, and they've already had some influence. And then I've usually done similar training to what I would do with my normal buddies, but I just serve them at a different time, and maybe usually there's food involved, let's face it. Pizza's always a winner for middle schools and high schoolers to be involved. And then I've opened it up to anybody that might be interested. And I've tried to look at it as a sort of a stepping stone, especially if they've been involved with respite program already, or they've been involved in something else with maybe younger children. Just saying, you know, what sort of skills they might need when it's their peers, looking at sort of social barriers and looking at communication, and just sort of working it that way. And then it's hard to know then how to sort of be like, and off you go. That's always the the tricky, because again, it's sometimes the student themselves takes it upon themselves and they're sort of, they go with it, and other times it needs to be a little bit more structured as to, hey, this week can you initiate the conversation with these students, and then sort of have a bit of feedback. And then you can then also incorporate any of the leaders involved as well to sort of bring them alongside. Sometimes it's a good way of actually training the leaders without them knowing they're being trained, because they might be all like, oh no, we know what we're doing, and I'm like, well, come along and work with the teenagers. And actually the adults are then like, oh yeah, I never thought of that, or I hadn't seen that opportunity. So again, it's a sort of a broader training opportunity. Does that sound about right?
Yes, because I've experienced, just on a personal level, not within the church. I've got 5 children. 4 of them have always gone away to like a family church camp type thing and enjoyed that. And my son doesn't get to go because he really could use a buddy. And so I'd asked a personal friend that had a son similar age, hey, could you go and stay at the camp? And it didn't seem like things were working out quite right, because the siblings, the sisters, all his little mothers were reporting back, oh, well, so-and-so's not doing this, or he's, you know, So I feel like I didn't make clear expectations of that buddy situation. So now going into like a church, more formal situation, I'm just like, all right, it seems like we need to have clear expectations to the buddy of like, this is what we're looking for you to do. This is how we're looking for you to help them be a part of, whatever the situation is.
Yeah, I mean, it's expectations, no matter what the situation is, that's always a good idea to, to express those expectations. So the volunteers know what they're expected to do, and also so they know what to expect as far as support comes from you or from the youth leader or whatever. Yeah. Sylvia, you have your hand raised.
Yes, hi. Let me already put my hand down first. Um, just a number of things have come through my head as we were talking. Sometimes in situations like that, I've used what I consider reverse inclusion, where I invite, like we have several environments that individuals can participate in because we serve individuals from 0 or 3 years up to seniors, 50, 60-year-olds. And on Sunday, we have Sunday school where we divide the age groups up. We have a children's group, a youth and young adult group, and an adult group. Disability is not always a factor in where they go, because I want, even in the self-contained environment, to be a more inclusive environment. And so we may do several things, like I said, the reverse inclusion, or depending on where the individual is, we might assign a buddy to go to a class with the typicals class for Sunday school. But we also, one Sunday a month, we have a social skills group where they can all come to the social skills group. But again, it's almost like a reverse inclusion as well, teaching them some social skills, appropriate social skills, what you do, how do you just do general conversation and those kinds of things. We also have a respite program where we do the same thing. We used to do buddy break, but now we divide them all up again into those 3 categories of children, youth and young adult, and adults. And what we will do in the respite programs is do social skills and community development, as well as spiritual formation. So we might do a lesson, spiritual lesson on, different character qualities and traits. This year we're doing the lesson on I forgot. I'm like, that just hit a senior moment. My goodness. And I just wrote it down. I'll come back to that piece. But we do have respite where, again, everything we try to do is engage and incorporate the opportunities for any individual to participate in any ministry in the church. And whether it's an assignment of not just a peer buddy, but an adult buddy to kind of guide them through what the strategies are, and learn triggers, what sets them off when certain things are happening in the church, and to allow them to take some roles and responsibilities wherever they are. If it's passing out the papers or handing out the crayons or whatever the activity is that we see that they may be capable of doing with some guidance, is just allowing them to do that. So that's basically, look, I tried to write down what we do. Sunday school, respite, reverse inclusion, and the social skills group.
So that's some really great information. And I want to talk a little bit more about the reverse inclusion idea. So I do recommend checking out, so Key Ministry, the podcast, that's the podcast that we do, but Sandra Peoples did an episode, I believe, on reverse inclusion. And she's actually going to be talking about that at the Disability in the Church conference, which is happening in Orlando, May 1st through 3rd. It's early bird registration time right now, people. So hopefully we'll see you there. But yes, Catherine, thank you. Just put that podcast episode in the chat. So just so you know, our podcast episodes, you could listen to them, like through your favorite podcast.
I've listened to a lot of them.
Okay, good. But you can also go to keyministry.org, click on podcasts, and you can read the transcript for each episode. So if you prefer to do that, you can do that. But I would recommend checking that one out, because that's a really it's a cool model for how we can be doing ministry. So thank you, Sylvia, for sharing all that. And when you remember what that lesson is that you were teaching, you just shout it out. Okay. I'm going to read from the chat because we have someone who needs to be muted because she has a fussy little one today. But her question is, so her church in Tennessee is building a special needs ministry for teens through adults. At this point in time, children are served in the kids ministry with various supports. So any resources, tips, wisdom you'd recommend. So kind of a lot, like many churches, and I'm using air quotes here, start special needs ministry in the children's ministry area, because it's just that's where it happens. They notice kids who need support. I see a few heads nodding, like maybe that's where it started at your church. But then there's this weird thing that happens, and that is our kids grow up and suddenly they're not little kids anymore. And so that's why we have churches who are looking to, how can we best serve teens and young adults? And, as we know, there's a wide variety of needs and abilities, disabilities. And so just because you have a teen or young adult who has a disability, it doesn't mean they're all the same. And so we have, you may have a kid who's on the very high end of the autism spectrum, way off the chart IQ, does not have an intellectual disability, but has a lot of trouble in the typical student ministry setting. So we're talking about all different kinds of, we're trying to figure out this on so many different levels. So that was a very long reading of the question, way more than, so Sylvia just added in the chat, respite focus for 2024 is the promises of God. We develop our own curriculum. Very cool. Thank you. I'm glad you remembered it. Can anybody else share what's going on with their kind of youth, middle school, high school, young adult ministry? Whether it's, in the, typical student ministry setting, if you do like a hybrid, if you do reverse inclusion, if you do standalone, what anybody want to share what their church does? Nobody wants to.
I can share.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. I was hoping you would unmute.
I'm like, I try to, I'm a talker. Okay, so we have our student ministry is done a little bit differently. So we don't really have Sunday morning program for our student ministry, which is, some people love that, some people hate it. I personally like it because then I don't have to dispatch as many buddies at that Sunday morning crunch time. So I personally like it. So how it works for us is we're a multi-site church, but we offer programming or a more inclusive opportunity at our largest campus, just because we have more resources there, more volunteers there. So what that looks like is our students who might have an intellectual developmental disability, they would be integrated fully into the whole experience with adaptations if needed. So they'll do, you know, what you think of, it's like a 2 hour, they call it student night. It's every Sunday night. And they do all the stuff that youth group does, crazy, weird games and worship and announcements and then a sermon. And then they break down into small group time. So basically what that looks like for us is just doing, you know, having modifications and adaptations at, you know, headphones, providing a sensory break room if we need it, having, like I have a young man who, he's not going to sit through worship. He's just not going to do that. So the volunteer that's going to, you know, walk with him or, you know, do something like that, provide headphones. And then when we do break up into small groups, they call them crews. And I've like identified a few students that, you know, that I know, like, because they're part of our Sunday morning programming, they're in our adult and teen Sunday school class. They do have an adult and teen class, which is sidebar, but with typical student ministry, some of those kiddos come, the students, and then typically other ones kind of find us. Like we will go do our crew, like they all meet in one room to do our small group time, and it's really loud and chaotic because there's, you know, 10 different little groups, middle school, high school, broken up by grades and genders, and all in one space having their little conversations. But for a lot of our kids, like that's not going to cut it. So we go to a quieter room and we have our discussion. And I get those questions that they call them ahead of time, and I just like modify them and simplify them. And so it's the exact same stuff. It's just like broken down in a different way. And so that helps. But I was talking about our Sunday school, like our adult and teen class. So we do have for Sunday morning program, because some people are just not going to maybe be able to go into a typical service and be able to, you know, get everything. So we do a class for teens and adults that we go off of our kids curriculum that I modify, but it's, you know, it's just like you would do for any adult Bible study. You can teach the same Bible lesson. You just might teach it differently to a group of adults than you would a group of kids. So we modify that and tailor it. And, you know, I show our video that our preschool uses, but I cut out the part with like the little puppet girl and the, you know, we just watch the animated Bible story because that's great. So that's kind of what we do. It's not a perfect model. Like one of the hardest things is just the multi-site piece. So if we have somebody that's at another campus that really needs, you know, a different kind of support, we just, you know, we can recruit a buddy, can do that kind of thing. But if, you know, a student has like more significant needs, it's been a little bit challenging, to be honest. Like I hate to say you have to come here, but that might be the safest option. So anyway, it's not perfect, but that's what we're doing. And it's been working since post-COVID. That's how we've done it.
Thank you. So that kind of reminds me, like, you know, we talk about, we want our students to be in the most inclusive, least restricted environment, you know, to borrow a phrase from the education field. And really what that boils down to is, like, we want them to be where they can best learn about Jesus. So we want them to be in their age or grade level with their peers, as long as that's, you know, like safe for them and where they're actually learning about Jesus. And so I love how what I'm hearing is people are kind of coming up with different, like a lot of time worship maybe is all together with, you know, with all the peers. And then maybe the teaching portion is for some students, or this, you know, if there's too much, if there's sensory overload, they have the option to be in a sensory room for part of the, you know, for part of the experience. So I really like how everybody's kind of thinking through some of these things.
We try to tailor it a little bit, you know, it's hard because there's, you know, it's grown, like, oh, okay, you know, and then some kids are like, well, I had a kid last night ask me like, well, I don't really have like he was like worried about coming into my group because he's like, well, but I sort of have like special needs. He actually did this. And,
Mhm.
but like, he had his headphones on, but like, I don't know that I'm like, you know what? It's for anybody that, there's not like, I'm checking, it's for anybody. Like
Right. And
we
that's,
just do it a little bit differently. You can come and join us. Not everybody in here has, it's for all the team. Anybody that wants to, or feels like it would be helpful for them,
yeah.
they're welcome to join us. I'm not going to.
And that's where the whole reverse inclusion thing can be
Yes.
really awesome because, it's not pegging somebody into a, a specific slot or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Who else wants to share? I knew it. I saw you come back on the screen, Al, and I was like, I know he wants to say something.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had my lunch before, so I didn't want to see me eating. But yeah, we're part of a multi-site church as well, 7 sites right now. A lot of the middle school, high school, and college end up coming to our main campus, which is in Parsippany, New Jersey, northeastern New Jersey, near New York City. I have a son in middle school. I think he's 6th grade. Intellectually, he's not, but he's included in the middle school ministry. We weren't sure how that was going to go, but they kind of forced you to do that at our church. But it's gone pretty well, so it's worked out that way. All the middle school kids, or most of them, go into the service for worship at the beginning. Then they come back out in the middle school room. My son doesn't go in because it'd be too much transition, so he stays often in the sensory room in the middle school room with a buddy. He had a new buddy yesterday named Eric, who was probably college age, maybe a little bit older than that. But yeah, a lot of his buddies are adults rather than peers. I don't think most middle school kids could handle being with him because of his challenges, but he seems to enjoy being there. So middle school in our church is during Sunday school, basically during the service. High school is at night, and my son, who's in college now, he had someone with a disability in his small group for 4 years with a buddy. So they try to include in the small groups those with disabilities that can come with a one-to-one. So they go on retreats as well and things like that. So that works out well. College, career age, because we're a bigger church, we try to attract some others from other churches at that age that want to have more of their own age. So I know of some others that are with us now that were in other churches before. We also have a cafe we started about a year and a half ago that employs about 20 people with disabilities, young adults. So that's been part of the ministry as well, which also, besides social and spiritual, provides employment as well. So that's something to think about for young adults, if there's possibilities to somehow create a business as well, whatever that might be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Does any other churches? I mean, I know of other churches, but anybody here have like a cafe or similar thing? I know our podcast co-host Garrett Wall has his church Southeastern has a cafe employment type thing. So very cool.
We don't have a cafe at our church, but
Mhm.
we started in our town. I'm on the board of Grace Coffee and Cafe, and a lot of our church members work there. They got connected to that through our ministry, and it is something our church has supported, but it's not on our site.
Okay.
So I don't know, while I'm on here, if you want me to, Al, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of what we do at our church, sorry, I got on late. You're discussing what happens at like middle school, junior high. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So we kind of leave it up to the family at that point, because we kind of went backwards at our church. We had our teens and adults first because that's what we had. And now we're working on building up our kids side of our program. But they kind of visit both places and decide, because we do have a self-contained class that's teen and adults. I lead that class, And then we have just our youth group, and our youth group goes from 7th to 12th grade. So before that, they're in our kids men. We have what's called Flight 56 for the 5th and 6th graders. And so they're still in kids men, but they don't really interact with the K through 4th graders. So it's kind of like an in-between, kind of getting them ready for youth group. So right now we have two kids that are in, one's in high school, one's in 8th grade, that are in our youth group. They chose to go into the youth group instead of to our class. One of them started out with a buddy, but after about a year, he dismissed his buddy, and he's now going on his own. He's doing great. And the other one, we never had to do a buddy with him. He is in a class that I was able to talk to the leaders, and they were able to really connect with him in the beginning. And some of the other boys in his class, one of them plays for one of the local high school football teams here, and he just really connected to him, and he's really invites him to his games and really made a connection with him. And so those two boys are thriving. And then we have one girl who comes in my class on Sundays. And then on Wednesday nights, we don't have my class right now because of space. So she kind of pops into a youth group without a buddy. Then in my class, I have one young man. He comes to my class at 9. He goes to the college class at 10:30, and then he goes to the young pros class on Sunday nights. So he's just everywhere. So we definitely kind of leave it up to wherever they're comfortable and just trying to meet each person where they're at.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and it takes a little more work, I think, to like figure out, for the individual, but like what an awesome thing that's happening, because people are really, being able to go in the environment that fits their needs at that time. And I think, you gave some great examples of, maybe somebody starts with a buddy, but once they've, figured out the rhythm and the routine, maybe they don't need that buddy anymore. Or maybe, there may be a season where somebody needs to be in the sensory room more than in the large group worship or whatever. So, I love that. And sometimes I get kind of super jealous of like really small churches, because I think sometimes really small churches can do this really well. Like they can get to know individual students or families really well and just support them. It's like just a natural thing that the church does instead of trying to come up with a big program.
The one that I said goes to my class, college and young pros. He also works in the 3-year-old class on Wednesday nights.
Oh, he's got the whole thing covered.
Yeah, he's serving, he's attending 3 different groups. And he works at our coffee shop too.
There you go.
He's just very social.
He's all in.
Yeah, for our teen and adult class, they have the option of either going into the worship song part of the service first. We have an area where we sit together in the back, so it's easy for us to get out at the end, or coming on into our room. And we've got, most of them choose to go in for that part and then come into our room. I don't remember if it was Amanda or Allison now, because you both were talking about kind of, you use the kid lessons and adapt them for your class. Yeah. We started using the adapted word about a year and a half ago, and then we add to that. And it's funny because I have such a wide range of abilities. And sometimes when I'm selecting music, you think, oh, this song's too kiddish, but they love it every time. They love it and they want it. And yesterday it was one of those examples. Like I had picked some songs that were more just what you would get in church, and they sang it, but they weren't excited about it. And then the next song was a more kiddish song, and even my highest functioning people were up moving around and happy during that song. So I think not being afraid to throw some things in there that you might think, just try it.
Yeah. My volunteers love motions too. So.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good stuff. And I want to share something from the chat. So Allison gave a shout out to Barb Stanley's resources for training. So wonderful work. I believe it's wonderfulworks.net, I think is how you can find, the website. And she has amazing training videos on there. They're really great for volunteers. Really well done. Great information. So please do check out wonderfulworks.net. Good call, Allison. And usually Barb's often on these, so maybe she'll watch the recording and know she got a shout out. And we will include the link. Thank you, Catherine, for putting in the chat. We'll include that when we upload this video to YouTube and Vimeo. All right, any other? Yes, Julie.
So first I want to tell Beverly, we can connect, because if you want support in communicating these things to the youth pastor, we're happy to help jump on a Zoom call with you. So we're happy to do that, and we can talk further later. But I just wanted to share one more thing that was so exciting this month. Our Amy is our daughter with special needs. She's the youngest of our 4 children, and she's amazing what God has done with a very bleak prognosis. And we're just like every day amazed at what God is doing. But here's the coolest, latest thing. So Amy, when she worships, she gets into it. I'm just saying. So she's like dancing around. She's got some moves, and well, people notice these things, right? And the lady who is the women's ministry director has often said, and her husband is the worship leader, okay, but she also is in the choir, but she just said, that just blesses me every single Sunday. Then the pastor's wife came up to us and said, it came up to me and said the same thing in women's ministry. Well, they decided to take Amy and create a video about what is going on within her when she's worshiping.
Wow.
And I know I was in tears. So they took her into the studio, which she loves being in the studio. Amy with her microphone, and yeah, she loves a microphone. So she went into the studio, and we haven't seen the video yet. And I also noticed that our women's leader was actually videotaping her with her phone on Sunday morning when she was dancing around. So it's just what I'm hearing in a lot of our conversation today, and this is something that's really been on our hearts lately, is that we isolate so much in our society and even in our churches. All these different age groups are meeting together, but they're not necessarily intermingling with all the other age groups. And it's the same with disability, ministry and people who have disabilities, and how we're talking about so much integration here today about getting, this young teenager into a place where he can really thrive in church. And I see that with Amy doing this video. There are 400 women that come to Bible study Tuesday morning and Tuesday night that will see this video, and they will see someone with a disability that can worship Jesus. And that I know God will use to inspire many. So I just had to share that with y'all, because we're just like flying high over here.
That is, I have chills, and not just because my office is cold. I mean, I have chills from that. So that's so. I'm going to end there. We're going to end there. We started off with a positive thing. We're ending with a positive thing. That was fantastic. Yes, we definitely need to see that video when it becomes available. So Julie, please do share that, and we'll get that out to people. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I want to remind you that on the 3rd Wednesday of this month, which I believe is February 21st, maybe Catherine's giving me a look. Yes, I get the nod. Yes. Our topic for this month's Disability Ministry Video Roundtable is going to be on awareness days, and do they have a place in ministry? So we're just gonna talk about, how you feel about them. Do you use them in your church? How could we use them? So that's our topic for this Wednesday. I want to give you a heads up that we're going to be doing something new with our 3rd Wednesday of the month Disability Ministry Video Roundtable. So most of you know we do the idea share, which is just an open topic kind of thing. But then on the 3rd Wednesday, we pick a topic, and that's what we discuss. We are going to be doing on a quarterly basis. We are going to make it a mental health ministry, disability ministry video roundtable. Am I saying that right? Thank you, Catherine. Yeah. So once a quarter, that Wednesday will be maybe a new, we'll have hope all of you will come back, but we'll also have a new audience for that. And then we are going to be doing I think it's going to be in April, but you'll get the notice about it. we are going to discuss behavioral challenges, and we're actually going to not record that one. And the reason why is because we want to be able to think through some challenges that maybe we've experienced, but it's hard to do that without, since we don't want to situations, churches, names, or whatever to be recorded. So that's going to be coming up in the next month or two. So be on the lookout for that. Any questions or anything on any of that? Okay. All right. Well, thanks again. Remember, early bird registration for Disability in the Church Conference is happening now. And we'll see you next month. Thanks, everybody.